Of course, we have talked about it. Toronto real estate crash, Toronto real estate market. We have been talking about it on this channel. We have tried to discuss it. We have tried to predict the future. However, some of these predictions came to be true. As an example, 70% increase in inventory just recently hit the market in Toronto. However, look, it's not all detached. It's not all specific or a niche real estate. It's all over the board. Mostly it has to do with condominiums. However, we don't have the ability to dig into assignments or pre-cons and stuff like that. We don't know how many offers have been written or sold per se. But however, we have seen that pinch and we are continuing to see it. Now, how long is it going to take for some of these people to throw in the towel and say, look, I cannot afford it anymore? It doesn't matter if it's condo, if it's an investment property, or if it's a house. Obviously, homes that are freehold, detached, they're still valued more as condo, unfortunately, in this period. And it's self-explanatory. The investors are gone, and some of these shoe boxes nobody wants to buy. I will share my screen, and you know what? Like it'll be interesting for you to see that still some of these buyers from 2022 are breaking down, and they're breaking down fast in the late 2024 and the early 2025. And we're now in February. So now the spring market that everybody has been waiting for, anticipating that something will magically happen and that these prices will increase overnight. And all of that pain of huge death will be just taken away. Well, it's not going to happen. And let me share my screen and we will start with Oshawa. This is an example of a detached bungalow, obviously older style of a bungalow, but it doesn't matter. Look, you're in Oshawa and it sold within 13 days, and you would say, just looking at the MLS, well, nothing is wrong with this picture. They sold for $715,000, 13 days on the market. Look, the market is still hot. But let us go into a little bit of detail. I have to scroll down for us to see what has been happening exactly. So if we go back to February of 2022, this exact property sold for $1,130,000 back in 2022. So just imagine, they sold this property for $715,000. That is a huge loss. That's like over $400,000 just like that. However, let's look what has been happening. Like, look, they bought it, they kept it for 2 years, and then in 2024 they tried selling for $879, and then they kept going. September relist for $764 in 2024 of September. Nothing happened. I'm assuming no action. Again, realist. They were reducing the price. They started to reduce the price more frequently, which means obviously they might be in trouble or whatever. However, now in January of 2025, they finally sold for $715,000. Now, let's get into some photos of this particular listing. And as we can see, I mean, look, it looks like it was probably built in the 70s. Older brick, nothing special. Long driveway, not even paved. Open backyard. The traditional 70s look. There's nothing really at the back. Some concrete stone blocks. There's no decks. There's nothing really exciting. However, it can pass as a house, right? I mean, obviously, inside, somebody, what's kind of interesting that someone in 2022 felt so desperate. They felt so desperate that they have to or had to purchase this property for $1,130,000. It just drives me crazy. On top of that, It's in Oshawa. So I don't know why I feel this way, but it feels like you know that game of musical chairs when those chairs are being eliminated and the players are being eliminated and all of that stuff. That's how people felt. I mean, like one chair in the middle of the room and there's like 100 people circling it and everybody was willing to pay so much more, but they pay for this. I mean, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not knocking. Every property is a property. I'm not trying to say anything, but all I'm trying to say, this property doesn't look at all what it should be for $1,130,000. So I mean, it is what it is. So let us go back and let's try something a little bit more newer. This is Innisfil North, so Simcoe area and stuff like that. This property is stunning, and they sold it for $970,000. A little bit better. It looks to me like it's somewhere around 2,500 square feet. Stunning, beautiful, chocolatey color that everybody likes and all of that stuff. But what has happened, right? In the meantime, so let's look at some details. So as you can see here, this property was listed in February of 2022 for 1.5 million, and then they sold it in February of 2022 for 155, so $1,550,000. So now, if I'm looking at this particular property, I mean, nothing seemed to be wrong. I mean, they paid whatever they paid in Innisfil, which is all the way up north, 1 hour from Toronto. But they leased it in 2023 for 3,300, got leased. Then they tried relisting it again for sale for $1,189,000. No success. They kept going, and finally, they reduced it to 1.1 million. They kept going and going and going and going, and then in on September 11th, 2024, they sold it for $970,000. However, in that was September they sold it. So in October, it was a power of sale transfer, and it even states here that it was a power of sale. So when people are asking me or telling me in the comments nothing is wrong, you're just hyping things up, well, you might be fine and congratulations, but look, there are power of sales going on. People are defaulting, there are bankruptcies and all of that stuff. So it is what it is. Let's look at some photos of this particular property. And as I mentioned before, chocolatey color, looks stunning. I mean, nothing wrong, brand new. Love the floor. Scandinavian kind of look, modern pot lights. I mean, it is what it is. Higher ceilings on the main floor, virtually staged probably. Coffered ceilings. I see some damage here on the floor. I mean, besides the point, but I don't know why. Whether it's water or it doesn't really matter. All it matters that they lost over $500,000, right? So let's move to something interesting that I found on the MLS, and that is the property right here, right? So this is a condo. It's in downtown. It's a studio up to 500 square feet. So it's hard to judge how big it is because usually they don't state with these shoe boxes how big they are. But let's assume somewhere around 400 to 500 square feet. Now, if we go into details, right here, and we can see that it was listed for, so it was sold 2021 for $455,000, 455. So if we measure that it was somewhere around 420, 425 square feet, that we could say that is $1,100 a foot at that particular time in 2021, even though the prices did jump in 2022 by another 10-20%, whatever the case is. In 2023, right away after 2 years of keeping this property, they wanted to generate some gains, trying to sell it for $579,000. Now, the reason they're probably listing it this high is because they're looking at all these developers and the builders and all of that stuff, and they're saying like, look, these guys are selling, the condos from the builders at 1,300, 1,400 a foot. Why can we not calculate it this way, and we're going to sell it and we're going to make the profit? So, but at this particular time in 2023, the interest rates were skyrocketing and things were kind of shaking. Right now in 2025 and 2026, we will see the actual after effect, if I may say. Like, you know what I mean? Like the hangover is starting, right? So we'll get into that in a second. But that was unsuccessful. They tried leasing it again. They leased it for 23.5. Kept moods, try selling it again, reducing the price and all of that stuff. And then they got to January and they listed this particular property for $249,000. So why they did that, I'm assuming that they wanted to get as many eyeballs as they possibly could in order for this property to be exposed, using that particular, I would say, tactic of lowering it as much as possible. And some of these investors or people that are in this particular bracket of $249,000 will pull that trigger and they will purchase this condo. However, they did terminate it after exactly 10 days. And then they did relist it for $478,000 in February. Then they changed the price to $467,000. So the too many changes, too many variables. I don't know what they're trying to do here, but whatever they were trying to do, unsuccessful. So let's get into some photos right here. As we can see, okay, the building fair from the outside. We can argue you like it or you don't like it, but ordinary building, not a big deal. Nelson Street, lobby. It is also, it's hard to distinguish between the actual condo and the lobby, but here is the condo. So you can put a couch or a sofa, a table in the corner. It's shot with a wide lens, so even the photos look a little bit bigger, because you would be surprised. You walk in some of these units and you're like, that's it, right? So that's it, right? That's pretty much it. I mean, like, 10 feet across, 8 feet across. That's it, right? So let me see the other angle. Yeah, so that's it. So you see a small hallway there. There's probably like a bathroom there, I'm assuming. That's the little kitchenette, or I don't know if you can really call this kitchen. To me, it looks like a Barbie kitchen, like those kids play with these like miniature kitchens and stuff like that. That's what it looks like. And that's pretty much it. So that's the condo. So you're buying walk-in closet with the hallway in an extension. So unsuccessful, and that's pretty much it. So the whole point of this video is to kind of throw the other angle. Like, we know that the condos are hurting and the investors are gone and it's hard to sell these things, but even ordinary typical real estate is hurting as well, because people don't have the funds to afford it, to keep it. And I heard it so many times, even on the comments, oh, why would they sell for a loss? They should hold on to it. Well, look, if you have never been in a situation like that, people are not stupid. They want to hold on to this. Like, the reverse effect will happen eventually. When the peak is going to come back up, we don't know. Could take 2 years, could take 4 years, could take a decade. We have no idea. However, people cannot hold on, right? Like they grab all these line of credits and they maxed out their visa. Who knows what they have to do? Maybe they lost a job. Maybe their business is not growing or doing as good and stuff like that, right? So all these things will affect the decision, right? Because if you can get out of a particular situation and soften the impact or the pain, sometimes you will do it, right? So we have seen some of these situations, and we can argue like, oh, they shouldn't have done that. Like, look, in 2022, you were probably thinking the same thing, What am I doing? Maybe I should upgrade. Maybe I should sell. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should buy an investment property. Maybe you didn't. And maybe your friends were laughing at you. They're like, oh my gosh, you didn't. And we're going to be so rich and you're going to be stuck and you're never going to be able to buy a property ever again in your life. Right? Well, who knows? Maybe you're better off now. So all I'm saying, it depends on each situation, each block, each community, each person is identical and has its own financial situation and its own fight to fight. Now, will they affect you directly or indirectly because you guys live on the same street, in the same tower? It's a different story. But this, I just wanted to share with you guys. So I hope you got something out of this video, and I will see you in the next one.